magician, the lover in you. Every single day, we are called to walk in our purpose. Answer the call. Lay down your burden and anything that holds you back and take your rightful place. The battle is everywhere. It's right in your face. Let's go.
Welcome to Magnets, Crystals, and Pyramids. Success is your destiny. Love, wisdom, power. Remember always who you are. Yes, yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Love, yes, power. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Wisdom, power. Master. Yes, I am. Yes, love, wisdom, power. Yes, I am. Say to yourself, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Master. I am. Yes.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Moorish Monday with Abdullah Iltalib Mosi Bey on Magnets, Crystals, Pyramids, YouTube. Those who are listening and watching us right now, let people know that we're on. Share the link if you haven't done so already. Let them know that we are live and direct. I have a special guest. This is the second time. Grand Sheik Cosmo Il of the National Grand Sheik Cosmo Il of the Moorish Science Temple of America, number 7. I was waiting for him to come on. What I'll be strolling across my stream is my website, moorishandmasonry.org. To go to my site to get my books, Moorish and Masonry Part 1. So just Brother Hank, Cosmo just called me, and can you give him a call? He does. I don't know what the issue is. You have his number?
He got to follow the sequence.
Yeah,
The same
he
sequence
has.
everybody goes on. It works perfectly. Tell him just start all over again and follow this the sequence of coming on. It's not hard to do.
All right. Can you give the people? All right. So I have to get off and just give the people a plug about how they can get your products.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Islam family. While featured guest Abdullah Talib Mostly Bey is going to get the tonight. I'm gonna show you the latest of the lab that has really been feeling amazing. Is magnets. I call it the breastplate, this magnetic sun disk. Now, these are certain arrangement of magnets for the purpose of magnetic regeneration of the cells. Worn over the heart. It's a strong magnet. Worn over the heart, it magnetizes the heart muscle and the blood. Our hearts inhale and exhale with every beat. What's happening, champ? Huh? Say what? No, man, I'm doing a show. Yeah. Bless you, though. You're going to have it before you get to the next corner. In the times we're living in, people going to be hitting you up for change, $1, $2, or $200. Folks is going to be asking for money because the times we're in, it just ain't funny. Now remember, money is a form of energy exchange. So if you don't have change on you to spare, give a blessing. Give a blessing when people are looking for you to sponsor them for a few dollars or a few hundred. Say, I don't have it, but you're going to get it. I am earthly wealth in abundance. You give them a chant, and that's currency. Our spoken word is currency. Now, this is magnetic disc. You can see that's the back of it that faces the body. So that each time you inhale from your heart, because your heart has inhalations, exhalations. So each time it squeezes, it absorbs the magnetism because your heart is always giving. Our hearts actually have more or equal to the number of brain cells. You have the same number in the heart. That's the latest research. So listen to your heart. If you're struggling between your head and your heart, listen to your heart. And I'm bringing back on Abdullah.
All right, peace. Just waiting for Brother Cosmo. I did speak to him. He's working to get on. He had to reset the password on his Facebook. So he's working to get on. And so he should be on shortly. So what I'm wearing is the Declaration of the Rights of the Child T-shirt, Principle 3 of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Every child at birth shall have right to a name and that is entitled to a name and nationality. This is part of the Human Rights and Nationality National Campaign. So the shirt is available for sale. I would put the information on my on my Facebook page, Abdullah Bey. When we get done, I'll look for it and I'll put this and post how you can purchase the shirt to support the National Human Rights and Nationality for our children national campaign. This upcoming in 2 weeks, I think the 24th, July 24th through the 26th, there's the 19th annual Human Rights Summit at the United Nations. And that'll be from this in about a week and week and a half. All right. So we have Grand Sheik on, right? Yes. So once again, those who are just joining us, welcome to Moorish Monday with Abdullah Il Talib Mosi Bey on Magnus Crystal Pyramids YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that like button. And let people know, because once again, let people know that we're on, that we're live and direct. You know, you can take this opportunity to, if you haven't shared it already, share the link on your social media platforms. All right, we're just getting started. This is going to be a very thought-provoking, illuminating presentation. Once again, the title is National Consciousness and Identity and Practical Solutions. So I present to you our guest for this evening, National Grand Sheik, Brother Cosmo Ill, of the National Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America, number 7. So this is his second time. He was on, I believe, was in February. He did his tour. He was on the East Coast. He came to the East Coast. He's in Hawaii now. He came to the East Coast, and he came to New York. Went to New York, and he came here to Philadelphia. I was under the weather at the time, so I didn't have the opportunity to meet the brother, to press his hand, in the flesh. But I was very excited to have Brother Curtis, who I've known for several years, contact me to request that I have Grand Sheik as a guest on my show. I said absolutely. He did an excellent job. So I'm going to turn it over to Grand Sheik.
Islam, can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
All right. Infinite gratitude. I rise high on the seven, giving all praise due to Allah. Give honor to my illustrious and industrious forefathers, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, Holy Prophet Noble Jew Ali, all of the brothers and sisters on the call right now, and extending infinite gratitude to you and Brother Hank for allowing me once again, to reach your viewers, and much appreciation for reaching out. I just completed a show on NYP Talk Show, and we were
Mm-hmm.
like back to back. You were the hour
Yeah.
before, and then I was the hour afterwards. Both were great
Yes.
shows. So it's very important, especially in a time, especially in a time like this, for us to, take control of our media, take control of our propaganda, and make sure that we're putting the proper message out there, because they're working overtime to put negativity out there in the news and in recent episodes of certain shows that are out right now. So it's good to be able to come here and actually talk about the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have the dice title, and you have first time you were on the show, you you gave us a very good extensive background of your extensive community outreach, your history and involvement in the Moorish movement, the books you have written, and I actually appreciate your work. I see that your following is growing. You're a humble brother. You are intelligent, well spoken, and you are an infectionist. And people gravitate to you, and I really love that about you, and how you are, and that you are welcoming. You embrace the people, and I've been following you for several years, and I just want to let you know that I greatly appreciate you for accepting for the second time this invitation to be part of my show. So we're going to delve right into today's topic. Once again, national consciousness and identity, a practical solution. And from your perspective, Banshik, what is national consciousness, and how can we continue to facilitate that?
Indeed. Well, from my understanding, national consciousness has many layers and many tiers. Just like sovereignty itself has many layers and many tiers. And a lot of times when we think of consciousness or sovereignty, it's usually a conversation about politics, political status, and identity. And so, but there's so much more to national consciousness. There's so much more to sovereignty. So the first layer that obviously we need to deal with and master in our community, based on our history and based on the linguistic genocide that has been perpetrated against us for centuries, is the nationality and identity. If anything is going to be national, then it's going to be related to nationality. Nationality is the solution. So in a short word, the solution is nationality. All of these years, when we were emancipated from so-called slavery, and just kind of let loose upon the world, there were certain uh, rights and responsibilities that we were supposed to be introduced to and adopt. And that hasn't happened. Instead, through the educational system and other systems, we've just been left to be in limbo under this color, under this chattel term, under this social construct, various social constructs, which all pretty much mean the same thing. So we have to be able to come together and have one national conscious understanding of who our people are, uh, what our people are, what are our rights and what our responsibilities and what our identity is. So that's one layer of it. But there are, again, other layers. We have to heal from the linguistic genocide, which relates to our political status in the United States of America. And until we deal with that, all the other types of consciousness, all the other types of sovereignty may be beneficial in an individual sense, but they will not reach their full peak. They will not reach their full potential.
Well, you mentioned let's analyze that, Grand Sheik. I mean, you mentioned may be beneficial in the individual sense. Could there ever be? Is there any beneficial benefits for our people in the individual sense? If our mother is still in the hospital, so let's look at you. Let's look at where you are. You're in the Kingdom of Hawaii. And I know the kingdom has been collapsed. They've lost their sovereignty in 1893. So their mother, they've been understood. They've been subjugated. They've been subjugated. The native people of Hawaii have been subjugated since 1893, and they were forced into the United States legal framework. In 1990, they were forced into the United States legal framework under the international law application called the acquisition of nationality through subjugation. So could there ever be any individual benefits if we have not restored our mother, if we have not recovered our lost Moorish sovereignty and revived our Moorish statehood?
Mm-hmm. Islam, great
Islam.
question. And that comes down to one of the types of consciousness and one of the types of sovereignty that I think a lot of our people, when they think of sovereignty, and they tend to incorporate this type of sovereignty into the ideology as a whole, and that's known as self-sovereignty or individual sovereignty. And so this simply means that you have the right to govern yourself. You have the right to govern your body. You have the right to control your life. And so in that sense, yes, there are individual benefits to consciousness, because when you say, for example, learn of your nationality, or you learn of your forefathers' principles and the principles of Islamism, you can now employ them to character develop and self-develop. And this can translate into a better life for yourself. Say for someone who was on drugs, or someone who was prostituting, or someone who was out there gang banging and was living a negative life. But because they get introduced to the consciousness of who they are and the divine principles of their forefathers, and they take that path on an individual level, and they begin to study and they begin to reform themselves, and this translates into a higher quality of life. When you learn to be disciplined, discipline doesn't just, if you learn to be disciplined lifting weights, if you learn to be disciplined doing karate, if you learn to be disciplined at work, this can now translate across other spheres of your existence in life. So there are individual benefits to consciousness, and there are individual benefits to self-sovereignty. But self-sovereignty and consciousness does not equal national sovereignty or political sovereignty or political consciousness. And I think this is where a lot of Moors get it wrong. You know, they feel like, all right, I'm a Moor now, I should be able to do whatever I want to do. I shouldn't have to answer to nobody. I'm a natural being. I'm natural law. I should be able to just do whatever I want to do, and nobody should be able to say anything. And that's just not correct. That's true in an individual sense, but not in a social sense, because we're social beings and we live in a social society, and there's a social contract. So we kind of just have to know the difference between the various layers of sovereignty, how they're applied, what the benefits are, and what their limitations are. Because, like you said, how can I truly enjoy? And that's what I mean when I say you can't reach the summit, you can't reach the peak or the apex of enjoying that individual sovereignty when you see your brother or your sister or your mother or your father wallowing over here in the mud and you're standing here nice and clean. So you can't reach the full potential of it, but there are of course benefits to being in your higher self, changing your character development, and changing your life path.
All right. What this? I think I mentioned this first time you were on. My pet peeve with conscious Moors is, and you pretty much alluded to it, is the pet peeve that I've had with conscious Moors is this selfishness. And that's not all conscious Moors, but I've seen so much of it for 33 years. I've seen that. I don't see that among unconscious Moors. I don't. Because I've been with both. So I'm one of the few that you may know who have had extensive relationships with both conscious and unconscious Moors for over 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what I observe among conscious Moors is this self-righteousness of that they have arrived and they're better than, they become bougie. You know, they forget where they come from. I mean, they forget that they were once unconscious about who they are. They talk crap about unconscious Moors. And I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that with many. I've seen that with many conscious Moors.
Mm-hmm.
My experience with unconscious Moors in the so-called Black Power movement, they do community outreach, they do festivals, they do events for the community. I don't see much of that with conscious Moors. This is my observation. And I've been involved. I've been involved for 33 years, heavily involved, and I just want conscious Moors to just reflect. That's all, reflect. I know someone get mad at me, but it is what it is. All right. But these are my observations, my experience, going through over 20 cities. And I've seen that. And I've been trying to wrap my head around what's the origin of that self-righteous, better than, with among conscious, that exists among conscious Moors. Like where did that come from? And we had this discussion last, and I just wanted to bring that back in because it ties into the topic.
Yes, and indeed. This is a very important topic, and I think that there are Moors out there that do events. There are Moors that have food giveaways. There are Moors that interact with the other community, especially in California. As I was saying on the other interview the other day at NYP, that we've worked with the Panthers, we've worked with the Nation, we've worked with the 5%. We've always had coalitions in California. It's always been about
Mhm.
coalitions. I've worked very heavily with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. of the POCC to do a lot of events when people would come down. Kwame Ture, Elaine Brown, Erica Huggins, various diplomats from Brazil and Africa. We would do security, and they would actually ask the Moors to do security, probably because a lot of times they were a little adverse to the Nation of Islam based on the histories. And so, we've in California, it's a different demonstration. We've always interacted. We've always been taught to uplift the community through social services and interact with the community. So, uh, however, the attitudes that you're speaking about, these are some of the generational curses that are handed down by certain grand sheiks and their style of teaching, which then becomes mimicked by the neophytes, and then and they take it out on the road. And the sad part is, as these grand sheiks grow, a lot of them kind of turn away from that and realize that they need to be a little bit more diplomatic about things. But because they've put it out there, the neophytes, and the members, they're still eating it up and still carrying on that legacy. And it stems from, so-called Black people, our people in the realm of unconsciousness. When you look at the conscious community, whether it be the 5% or whether it be the debates or whether it be any of these things, it's all been based on the amount of knowledge that one has. And if you're even in hip hop, if you can rhyme the dopest, you the
Yep.
god of hip hop, like Rakim Allah,
Mhm. Yeah.
so we haven't had too much more uh, to be proud about than the amount of knowledge and prowess that we have. And so once we have that knowledge and that prowess in the realms of intellectual ability, it can be something that now can feed the ego. And this is why it's important to know of the higher self and the lower self, and know about character development, which is the basis of Islamism, so that, as neophytes get this knowledge, that it's tempered with humility, that is tempered with them knowing that they have to be caring and kind to the people that they're duty bound to teach and duty bound to uplift. So, but it's not just in the Moorish community. You'll see it in the 5% community. You'll see it in, other communities that place an emphasis on knowledge, and knowledge being the driving force of that consciousness. However, when you have a movement, and when you key into the words such as Noble Drew Ali, that Moors are active and not passive, and that we should be active out there, and that we're here to uplift fallen humanity, that should be some keys and some indications that it's not just based on knowledge. Action trumps knowledge in this movement, because there's a verse in the Circle 7 where it says that one who just stands on the road and points the way is a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same. So the emphasis in the Moorish movement really isn't on knowledge, but as you get the young neophytes coming in, it feeds their ego. And because they're not equipped with the proper tools yet of character development, they portray these types of attitudes and actions.
Well put, brother. Well put. Yes. And I was more speaking to with unconscious, with conscious Moors, of their position of not reaching out to the up to unconscious Moors. You know, that's where that, so not so much of what they know, but their not their lack of reaching out, the lack of community outreach. You know
Mm-hmm.
that you know that I don't that, and also with the better than perspective as well.
Yeah.
I see that.
Well,
I don't see
you
that. I
know,
don't see the extensive community outreach among conscious Moors
yeah. I
that,
mean,
that I see with conscious
some of
that I
these
see
Moors
among
think that
conscious
they're
Moors.
some of these Moors think that when they proclaim their nationality, that their actual bloodline changes. And now it's like you have a nationality, so you're going to treat your people like everyone else that has a nationality. You're in another club now. You have a nationality, and you don't want to be associated with Negro, black, and colored, and any of these things. So that's what I mean. It feeds the ego. People think that because they are treated differently based on their culture and the way that they dress. It's interesting. Back in the day, in the 40s and the 50s, one of the ways to be treated nice by Europeans was to wear a turban. Because if you wore a turban or you wore something exotic, then they knew you wasn't no so-called Negro, black, and color because they didn't know anything about that. So a lot of times
Mm,
people would just throw on a turban and not really even be conscious, not even be representing the turban. And you have Moors like that have feathers on their head, but nothing in their minds. So it's as if Moors feel that now they belong to the exclusive club of those who have nationalities, and they're going to treat their people how other people with nationalities treat their people, when that shouldn't be the case. We're not here to teach Moors. Moors already know. We're not here to uplift Moors except with services for Moors. We're here, as it says, Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, to teach our people that they're not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted up until 1865 during the time of slavery. So once you understand that this is what our purpose is, then it's not about regurgitating a bunch of law. It's not about regurgitating what your sheiks or what your national leaders are saying. It's about getting out there and actually uplifting. It says, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. So at the end of the day, these are Moors that are really not well educated in the teachings of Noble Jew Ali. They've been studying everything else but that. Because if you are studying the teachings of Noble Jew Ali, there's no way that you could have that type of perception.
all right. Yeah. So um, I'm back. It's storming where I am in Philly, and
Yeah, all is well.
I'm dealing with this reception here now because of the storm. It's yes, as and part of addressing practical solutions, which is the subtitle of the day's presentation. Those who are just joining us, I have National Grand Sheik, Brother Cosmo Ill, for the second time. He was with us in February, and she was on tour. He came on this side, New York and Philadelphia, book signings. And so I just wanted to, uh, and addressing the topic, national consciousness and identity, practical solutions, we have to talk about the inhibitors, or what has blocked the growth of national consciousness. And and I wanted to take some time to do that, and we actually are doing that now. You know, and so now we can get into the area of how do, and we talked about this the first time you were on, and we're going to go get more
Mhm.
expansive discussions on this. Is how do we facilitate among our people, or what have you done over the years, National Grand Sheik, on facilitating national consciousness?
Mhm. All right. Islam. When it comes to before I get to that, if I can take a couple of minutes to just talk about the inhibitors, because there is
Yes,
another
continue. Yes.
inhibitor, um, aside from just the ego aspect and the self dejection from our loved ones. There's also the what we call the dirty Moors, that feel the need to do crime and fezzes and put on fezzes and do things that are reprehensible to society. We just saw in the BMF episode that they have Moors in there and they're being portrayed as very unsavory characters, And it's not like that these unsavory characters don't exist in the community. They actually do. But the thing is, unsavory characters exist in every community. You don't throw away the whole Moorish Italian community because of the mafia. You don't throw away the whole Japanese community because of the Yakuza, you know. So we have to understand we do have these elements. However, if you want to be a gangster, if you want to be a thug, if you want to be a hoodlum, you don't have to do it with a fez on. You take your fez off. Go be that, because the problem when you put fezzes on and do it, number one, it creates negative propaganda for our nation as a whole, being that this is our national headdress. And I think a lot of times, I'm a father, and a grandfather. So I don't just look at it as me being involved in the movement. A lot of these guys, it's just about them. But when you put on fez, when you put on a turban and you publicly commercialize your negative actions like that, then what you're doing is you're putting your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, your aunties, all in a situation where now somebody wanting to strike back at a Moor, or thinking that Moors are all like that. Now they're a victim of a hate crime, and now they're suffering uh, oppression in some form of fashion. So we have to acknowledge that, and we have to make sure that we have a system, a strong system in place that makes sure that the public knows that that's not what all Moors are about, which brings in, which leads us to the question that you ask. One of the ways that I, over the years, have helped to facilitate national consciousness is through writing books. Back in the day, I was one of the first Moors that had Moorish YouTube and started showing the actual activity of what Moors were doing on the ground in California. Nobody really knew about California until we had a big unity summit, and we put that online, and that really publicized California. And so that's one of the ways that I started with the YouTube. Then I moved more into the writing books. I've written over about 24 books right now. About 14 or 15 are still in publishing. And one of the books that I wrote, which was very important to me, was Blackamoor, Bridging the Gap Between Moor and Black. This was a very popular book, has hundreds of reviews and thousands of sales. And the concept of that book was, hey, we're saying that we're Moors. Most people know Black, but there's no connection there. What's the bridge that they can walk over from Black to Moor? And sure enough, this word Blackamoor was there, which illustrates the linguistic genocide, being that first we were Moors, then we were called Blackamoors, now we're just Black. So we were totally removed from our true name and are now just in the chattel term Black. Also, one of the projects of the United Moorish Science Temple of America. I wanted to correct that. Not Temple number 7. That's our brother Ace Damu Il, National Grand Sheikh of the United Moorish Science Temple of America, and which is a council of temples. I have a temple in Hawaii. There's temples in Oakland, Baltimore, Arizona, Los Angeles, all participating in the United Moorish Science Temple of America. And we put together the Moorish Times newspaper. And so the Moorish Times newspaper is also one of the ways Prophet Noble Jew Ali said it was our greatest weapon to combat the falsehoods, in so many words, against our people. And so we have that newspaper that comes out, and we make a point to highlight the positive things that Moors are achieving. And also, our brother Grand Sheik Curtis Douglas Hill in New York is a host of an international news channel which airs in not only in the United States and the UK, but Bangladesh, Pakistan. He has a show, Universal Pathways, where Moors and many people from various communities come on there, even politicians, and share news and share their ideas and concepts. So I think, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said it best. It's our greatest weapon. So journalism and writing is one of the, and news shows, video is one of the main ways that we can change the narrative on a broader scale. And then of course locally, we've had food giveaways, we've had events, we've worked again with the Panthers and other groups to provide services for our community, which is what governments actually do. And so we can all play our part locally, and but the Moorish Times is there for Moors who actually want to showcase what they're doing on a national scale. And so is the show Universal Pathways, to showcase what Moors are doing on a national scale. And then we can combat some of this negative portrayal and negative press about Moors.
I love it. I love it. Y'all hear that? This brother's been active as I have over the years. This brother, I love it. And I have been following this brother for several years. I think I had you. Do you recall Grand Sheik having me on your show? Did you have a blog? You had a blog talk radio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you recall having me as a
Islam, yes, I
2009 or 10,
it
11
would
or
have
something like that?
probably been around like 2000, maybe 13 or 12 or something like
Something
that.
like that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You had me twice on your
Yeah.
show.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
indeed, brother.
See? Told you. I told
Yeah,
you.
yeah. We've been demonstrating for a while now.
Yeah.
I proclaimed my nationality back in 1992, and when I was in high school, even then, I founded the Moorish Chess Club at Long Beach Polytechnic High School. So,
Mhm.
it's a lifestyle. This was before the internet. You didn't have
Oh yeah, it's
internet. You didn't
before. Yeah,
have
yeah.
you if you want to know about Moors, you had to go to the library, you had to go to the temple, you had to seek it out. And so the internet was
Hmm.
good to blow the movement up, but again, it contributed to a lot of these guys who may be intelligent and know how to glean knowledge from other sources, but then use it for unscrupulous purposes.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Absolutely. Excellent, man. Excellent. I love it, man. This is I'm loving this, man. And that's important. See, and Grand Sheik mentioned about facilitating national consciousness, because we can give definitions of national consciousness, and that's great. But then we also have to, well, how do you facilitate that? Now here's the definition, but then how do you facilitate that to among our people? And it has to be activity. It has to be outreach, newspapers and
That's right.
blog talk shows and YouTube and books. And so this is a perfect example right here, right in front of us, who's
That's
been
right.
demonstrating. You know, he said 92. It's 90 since 93 for me.
Right
And so
on.
I've been as active as Grand Sheik has been over the years. As I said, I was on his show twice. That's when Block Talk Show was big in
That's
2012
right.
and 13, and a lot of people wanted me on their show, and other people heard about me because I was doing other shows, and so I done a lot of Block Talk shows. It was Jackson, and then I just couldn't. I had to slow it down because it was actually interfering with my working on Moors and Masonry Part 1. And
That's right.
it was a lot though, because I have to prepare for the shows. I mean, I was like doing sometimes 2 shows a week or 5, 7, 8 shows a month. And it was a lot. Absolutely. It can
It's fine.
become, because you got to prepare. I don't want to look like, we don't want to be looking like boo boo the fool. You know what I mean? So you got to prepare and that takes time.
Islam.
So
That's why I kind of backed up off of the YouTube channel myself, was to actually write books, because the YouTube was fine, but I just knew that when I looked to see books about Moors, there weren't a lot of books. There were a lot of books about the temple, and you can find in a lot of the so-called Black history scholars little bits and pieces of Moors, but there were no books really written about Moors, and in a simple way that our people could read, not a long big old book, maybe 40, 100 pages.
not like
And
mine.
so I got it in mind to do that. And you're right, it takes a lot of time and energy to prepare, but I do see there's a resurgence of Moorish
Yeah,
American shows and stuff now with the live. So
yeah,
that's a beautiful thing. That's why I've been coming on these shows, because it's all a part of the program.
absolutely. Definitely, we appreciate you, brother. Those who are just tuning in, we are live and direct with National Grand Sheik, Brother Cosmo Ill. Let people, if you haven't hit the like button, please do so right now. We get their algorithms up. All right. Let people know that we're on. Share it. Share it. Let the people know. Blow the horn on your social media platforms that we're live and direct. This is a very great show. All right. So please hit that like button showing across the screen. My website, moorsandmasonry.org. I'll also give Brother Hank a hand, a shout out for this platform. Brother, thank you, Hank. I've been on this platform for 18, I think 18, 20 months now. So I definitely want to, Brother Hank, and also give Brother Hank a shout out because he actually broadcasted the Human Rights and Nationality Campaign conference that we had in Brooklyn a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago. He was there and we broadcasted the entire broadcast show. So I want to give Brother Hank a shout out for that again. So continuing with the discussion of nationality and national consciousness and identity, practical solutions.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, Grand Sheik, that you are part of a coalition of Moorish science temples. And I think that's very good. I think that's a um, great idea to actually form coalitions, affiliations, so that you're not by yourself, and that actually opportunity because there's strength in numbers. Continue with that. Now, looking at national consciousness, how do you see our people moving forward in the international arena?
Islam. So that brings me to the word sovereignty, and which is used a lot in the movement. And I'm not sure if Moors know. I'm sure some Moors do know, but there are a few different types of sovereignty. We talked about one, which was self-sovereignty, individual sovereignty. There's also negative sovereignty and positive sovereignty. And so negative sovereignty is, and I took some notes here, is basically international recognition. The state is as independent, but lacks the power to exercise will in its own territory. It's de jure, but in the capacity of self-governance and effective state functions, such as providing services to its people, is lacking. And so a lot of Moors, well, I won't say a lot, but some Moors focus on sovereignty from a negative sovereignty perspective. They file a lot of paperwork, they send it international, they're looking for international recognition. But at the same time, they're not, it might just be them or a couple of other people. You know, they haven't built an effective group or effective network to be able to provide services for their people and to promote the well-being of their people. Whereas positive sovereignty includes being able to provide services, promoting the well-being, being able to effectively provide essential needs, and also being able to demonstrate its own international goals with non-interference of foreign powers. So I think that as where we're at right now is a lot of people are seeking the negative sovereignty. And they think, oh, look, I'm recognized by the United Nations, or oh, look, I'm recognized by this other country over here, or this other country, or look, I'm recognized by the Moroccan Empire, or everything is pointed outwards. And yeah, you do have legal documents and lawful documents, and these things are fine. But in order for us to be a true sovereign people, because individuals are not sovereign in the legal sense, except from an individual perspective, unless they're a matriarch or a patriarch or something like that, and they actually have a kingdom. But yet they still wouldn't be sovereign without the people who made them sovereign. So I think that a lot of emphasis has been put on legal documents and reaching out abroad to see who we can get to recognize us. But as we were talking about earlier, we need what we've been trying to focus on in the United, and even just with brothers that I rotate and deal with, is being able to provide the services, being able to provide the essential needs, being able to not only have the body politic on paper that definitely creates a sovereign entity, and but also being able to provide all the other things that come with sovereignty, like food sovereignty, energy sovereignty, religious sovereignty, of course, political sovereignty and self-sovereignty. If we're not providing those things, then we're really not whole as a nation, because if we're not providing them, then somebody else is providing them. And when somebody else is providing them, that's a indication and a requirement of you being in their society. So it doesn't matter how much legal paperwork you have if you're sending your children to their institutions. It doesn't matter how much legal paperwork you have if you don't have food sovereignty, if you have to depend on the society you say you're abandoning for your food or for energy, if you don't know how to hook up your own solar and deal with power banks and other things to provide your own electricity, even right to travel. Yeah, we have the right to travel, of course, but how we travel is another thing. And most importantly, when you're leaving a system, you have to have another system that you're going into. So when you say, all right, well, I'm not a citizen of the USA no more, I'm sovereign, I'm all by myself, what you're really saying is you're stateless, because you don't have another state now that you belong to. And internationally, we know stateless is not a good position to be in. It amounts to a refugee, and the stateless people are the ones who get all of the injustices heaped upon them because they don't have a state to come to bat for them. And I mean, yeah, you can buy the boilerplates off of the websites, and yeah, there's a bunch of people doing it, but these websites are not governments, and they're not providing services, and they're not going to come to bat for you legally, financially, essentially, or otherwise. So we have to begin to move from the phase of just looking at being in a sense being paper tigers, and realizing that we have to provide services, essential needs, and promote the well-being of our people. This is what freedom looks like. This is what true sovereignty looks like. We have our own resources, our own builders, our own people providing energy, our own people providing food, our own people providing tracking systems for if we want to have travel and we want to travel outside of that system. Well, what happens if you hit my daughter, you know, and you just all king of your own island by yourself and you speed off? How do I get justice? Where's the insurance for my vehicle? So if we're going to do things, we have to make sure if we're going to leave one system, we have to have systems in place so that we can keep our people safe and promote the well-being of not just ourselves as men, because a lot of times we look at this movement as just brothers. No, there's families involved right here. So creating the proper systems, there's some people that have some good systems right now with the tribal roles that at least, you know, you can give an ID, and if there was a necessity to where you could be found, there's information with the tribal roles and whatnot. And when we look at policy enforcers, you know, some of the law we've been studying is when you start looking at true independence, you'll realize that, hey, if you have your own town and you have your own city, then you can have your own policy enforcers. And so we end the police terrorism, the police brutality overnight by having our own policy enforcers. And it's not hard to have a town. Elon Musk and Google just created a town. Google created a town by annexing a piece of land, having 500 of their employees move to that land. They were in campers and whatnot. And once it got to the 500, which was the requirement by law to create a town, they began to file the paperwork. Anybody can do this. So when Moors become a little bit more focused on having their own, and instead of trying to change a system that they say they're not a part of and create their own systems, then you're going to see the glory of a true Moorish age, a true Moorish American age, where we're truly in control of our own destiny and don't even have to really interact with the other society. And if we do, we have institutions in place to do that. We don't have to do it individually and put ourselves in jeopardy.
In international law, there's the international law under the law of peace that is known as the recovery of lost sovereignty. We have a pre-existing sovereignty, pre-existing state, and let me give you and let's look at a case in the international in the rights in the United Nations under the rights and duties of states. In 1968, Ceylon was re-entering the international community. The United Nations, the rights of duty, the rights of duties of states, International Law Commission, United Nations International Law Commissions of Rights and Duties of States, classified Ceylon as a new state. The representative of Ceylon challenged that false classification and showed through records that's the 19th century, 1800s, diplomatic relations and treaty relations with other nations, that Ceylon was indeed an old state, old and original state, and should re-enter the international community as such, and not as a new state. We are an old and original state. So the position would be reversion to sovereignty. Now, the issue that we face as a people is that our land is still colonized. Colonization has never ended. There's been misrepresentation in the textbooks. Misrepresentation. The misrepresentation is United States defeated Great Britain. That ended colonization. That's false. That's
true.
false. So the word colonization is never associated with the United States. It's associated with Great Britain. It's associated with Spain, with Portugal, with the Dutch, with the French, but never with the United States. No one ever says colonization with the United States. No one associated with that. But Article 1 of the 1783 Definitive Peace Treaty between Great Britain and the United States, King George III, his imperial majesty, relinquished to New York State the territories that's in the New York Colony Charters. Relinquished to South Carolina State the territory that bounded in the South Carolina Colony Charter. Relinquished to Georgia State the territory that's outlined in the South Carolina in the Georgia Colony Charter. Is that not the continuation of colonization?
That's right. Yeah.
Let's go to all this. That's Article 1. Let's look at that. That's a continuation. Like you're relinquishing. He relinquished the territories to each of the 13 states. But the boundaries are outlined in the colony charters. That's a continuation. King George III did not relinquish the territories to us. Show me in the treaty. Show me in the 1783 treaty between Great Britain and the United States, or any treaty that came with Great Britain and the native people that relinquished North Carolina colony, South Carolina colony, the New Jersey colony. Oh, you know what? So when someone plagues me. So when if a European plagues me and calls me stupid, no problem. No problem. All right, so I'll say, oh, you know what? Maybe I am stupid. Yeah, you know what? King George III did relinquish. King George III did relinquish the boundaries in North Carolina colony charter to the native people. King George III did relinquish the boundaries in Georgia Colony Charter to the native people. King George III, nah. No, he didn't. Oh, I thought I was stupid. I thought you said colonization ended. So I learned to play dumb when they play dumb. I play dumb with them too. And then I let them correct me. I play dumb with them too. Yes, you're not gonna play me. Yeah, so the territorial sovereignty has been France transferred French territorial sovereignty to the United States through the Louisiana Purchase Treaty. So that's a continuation. So United States is continuing the colonization. United States didn't conquer. United States didn't conquer. The United States did not laid out survey. United States did not survey the land. It was surveyed by the French crown under King Louis XIV, named after him, Louisiana. United States didn't do that. France did that. What France did do was relinquish the territory sovereignty to Spain in 1762, and Spain retroceded to France in 1801. What France did do was sell it, thereby ceding it to the United States, thereby ceding the title, the conquesting title. So United States is in possession of stolen goods. United States didn't steal it, France stole it. The United States is in possession of stolen goods. France did not relinquish it to the native people. United States is in the best interest of stolen goods. That is called the transfer of territorial sovereignty. So France transfers territorial sovereignty to United States. France acquired the territory through conquest. To conquest. United States did not acquire it through conquest. They acquired it from a conquesting power, France. United States acquired it through treaty that is called a land boundary cession treaty. So now what's in possession, United States holds the title, the survey. So the survey bound that France did in the late 1600s, United States now holds that because it was ceded to them. So they're in possession of stolen goods. It's a continuation. And I'm showing the process of the continuation.
Islam,
so that has to be addressed. That has to be addressed.
Islam.
So by United States, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, what I'm saying is that that goes back to the negative sovereignty, because when you go back to Black's Law Dictionary, and it says and it defines nation, and the first definition is people. It says people or an aggregate of men organized as a jural society, and so on and so forth. So the nation is the people. We're a nation, no doubt about that. But it's the aggregate of men organized as a jural society part that prevents one from being able to move from negative sovereignty into positive sovereignty. Because again, though we have this the international recognition as a people, as a sovereign nation from various outlets, because there's still a mandate on the land. When you deal with the United Nations, they have a special committee on decolonization, and that within that shows how colonized people and lands are to be transferred back after a certain period of time back into the families of nations. And the way that the United States has been able to skirt this is because once again, we're not in the position to be able to provide the governmental services, right? And to be able to provide the essential needs on a mass scale for the people that need it from our side. So though we have that recognition, and there's plenty of international laws to show that we have rights, whether it be the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, whether it be the Declaration of Human Rights, whether it be the Declaration of the Rights of Child. And there's so many things that we look at and say, hey, we have these rights. Why aren't we able to exercise them the way that other nations are able to exercise them? That's going to take some organizing on our part to show that we are a mature body of people that don't need to be held in trust, that don't need to be governed by anyone else, because we can govern ourselves. And again, it goes back to food, energy, education, religion, even building out of, starting small with villages, towns, cities, because these things are entities, right? They're entities that are able to be used for us to be able to not practice, but to be able to exercise government on smaller scales, so that we can become more mature, governing a town, having a council, having the body politic, being able to provide the essential needs, whether it be emergency services, hospitals, all of these things. If we truly want to be sovereign, if we truly want to be independent, we truly want to have that self-governance, these are things that we can do to not only provide it for our people, but to show the world that we're mature, we're ready. We don't have to be in this situation. And now it makes it a little bit easier to move from under the colonization system into our own systems, because colonialism is definitely the occupation of land and territories, but there's a lot of land, a lot of territory. There's a lot that, you see driving up the freeway. You're going from Northern California to Southern California, and these cities and these towns just pop up in between. So there's still a lot of land for us to be able to govern ourselves and have our nation and have a land base. Without having a land base and without having a base in these principles of sovereignty that are actual, real life application, then it makes it hard for anyone to really take it seriously, especially our own people, because most of them are looking for, well, if I leave this society, if I leave this plantation, then what am I going to walk into? What systems are in place to ensure that I can enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? So I think we need to marry everything that you're talking about with the activism and the necessary institutions and services where we can actually be a self-governing nation, and not just in the individual sense or in the negative sense, but in the full positive sovereignty sense.
Let me say this, Grand Sheik. I hear what you're saying. What the greatest resource that you have that you're providing are your books. Let me explain. More so than the food. Just let me hear me out. Just hear me out. More so than the services than the food. Your books are even greater than that, because we are in our situation is different than that of the native people of Hawaii. Yes, they're subjugated. We're subjugated. They're subjugated. So we're both subjugated. They're subjugated. But what is our situation is unique. There's no other situation in the annals of history that matches ours. None. None. In the annals of history. Why? We've been stripped of the knowledge of who we are. I know the native people of Hawaii, they've lost some concept of their culture. I know that. But what they have not lost is the knowledge of who they are. That is major. That is a major, major, major distinction. I mean that they have for 132 years, the native people of Hawaii have been protesting. They ascended to the United World Court in 1974. They have been protesting. They know who their last standing sovereign was. So the United States did not strip them of their knowledge of their nationality. Yes, the United States forced them into the United States legal system. Yes, the United States is subjugating them and do the acquisition of nationality, do subjugation. Yes, but they have, and yes, the United States reconstructed and now classifying Hawaiian as a race. Yes, but they have not lost, the people have not lost the fact that they are Hawaiians. That is major. We have lost that. That is major. I am providing. I'm explaining why I'm saying to you, Grand Sheik, your books, your outreach, your network what we're showing the world, we have to show the world that we are making an effort to teach our people. We need a national registry of conscious Moors. We're showing the world that we're active with the books, the outreach. That's major because we have a dehumanization case. We've been dehumanized. That is major. So I want you to know my thought that your books and your outreach, your network, your YouTube, your education, your lecturing is the food that our people need. Because what that does, that facilitates the national consciousness, which will facilitate the national political unity. That is major. I don't want to underscore that. I do not want to underscore that. That is major, major, major. That is needed.
Islam, praise Allah. If I may interject, I agree with you. I agree with you because the first thing that we have to do is change the narrative and get our people to knowing who they are. That is at the foundation. That is at the foundation of it all. Because if we don't know who we are, we don't know who to provide services for. We don't know who, you know, and you can look at it today because of our identity, not knowing who we are. We're out providing services. We're in everyone else's system. We're doing everything else, you know. And I see someone right here, the sister, Act 6, teaching, and that is the primary purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America. However, I do want to point out a couple of things. It was published in the Moorish Guide in 1928, where Prophet Noble Jew Ali addressed the Moors and asked them to write to the business manager about how they would like their own politicians, their own judges, their own land, their own businesses, their own police officers, their own lawyers. This was the plan going forth from our religious sovereign, Noble Jew Ali, in 1928. We may not know of our past sovereigns, but we know of our sovereign in America that came in 1913 AD and not just had some knowledge or spread the knowledge, because you had people like Futa Ali and it was Muslims here who knew we were Moors. But what he did was he established the body politic, and the body politic is the state. And so he resurrected and brought our nation state back into being, and then laid out a program for it. So Act 6 first was to teach. And then it was to have our own parks, our own farms, our own land, our own businesses, our own judges, our own lawyers. So that is the foundation. But like I always say, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We still have to elevate, because once everybody's fully educated, then what? Now they need the action. They need to know where their children's going to go to this school instead of that school, because no matter how much you know as a parent, when you send your children into their school, it does two things. Number one, it puts them right back under the jurisdiction for the duration they're at that school. And they can tell them, hey, you can have two mommies and two daddies and you can't do nothing about it. Or they can poison their mind and undo everything that you did. A lot of times conscious parents, you know, they're conscious, but when their children come home from school, they're arguing with them like, come on, mom, dad, that's that old stuff. This is the real stuff right here. So I don't want to undershadow the importance of institutions and services. And then also on the aspect of Hawaii, what you're saying is true, but there's some information that goes along with that, because the last sovereign of Hawaii, the first sovereign was King Kamehameha, right? The first. Now, what King Kamehameha did, being that I'm here on the island of Hawaii, I talked to the elders and have done my history, the Kanaka, as they're known. What he did was he united through war the various islands who were at that time under the rulership of the Ali'i. And the Ali'i were the traditional rulers of the Hawaiian territories. Now, this is very important because most of the Hawaiians that are here are not the true Hawaiians. I want to give you something and something for your viewers to look up. Look up blackbirding. See, blackbirding was the process of removal of the indigenous population off of the island to work on other sugarcane plantations, pineapple plantations, and other plantations in Australia and other European places. So the blackbirding, if you look at blackbirding and you look at the pictures, you can't tell the difference between the pictures of the blackbirding or pictures of Leopold in Africa. You know how the European colonists, they would take pictures with the indigenous melanated population behind them. And we have those histories. If you look up blackbirding right now, you're going to see some pictures and you're going to swear it's in Africa. You're going to swear it's Leopold or France or Germany or somebody else, because the Kanaka Maoli, or the original people, were mostly moved off of the land. These were the people from Melanesia. And I gave a speech at the University of Hawaii in Hilo twice during so-called Black History Month about the origin of the people of Hawaii being what they call the Negritos. Here they have a little a legend about the Menehune, the little so-called Black people that were here in ancient times, almost like in Ireland. You have the leprechaun, the little so-called Black people that they call the Negritos that come through Asia and Africa, which we know as the Moro, the same Negrito population that's in the Philippines and in the Korea were known as the Moros. So the inhabitants of the island were originally from Melanesia by way of Africa and Asia. And these were the people that were mainly moved off. Then you have the Polynesian people. Polynesia means mixed. These are the ones, yes, they do have a degree of blood, many of them, of the Kanaka, the original, but they're mixed with other Asian groups. And this is the Asian Pacific. So you got the Moros here, so-called Filipinos. You got the Thai, a lot of Thai. You have the Japanese. You have all of these people that came and mixed in. And so now when you look at the population here, what you're seeing is the Polynesian prototype, and the identity that they have, ancient history to them, only goes back to the 1800s when King Kamehameha united all of the islands. So so they do have that, but it's still even before the European corporations came here, King Kamehameha II had outlawed the Ali'i structure and was adopting more Western ways. So they've been losing that for a long time. And that education that comes with that, it's almost like a false identity of being Hawaiian, because they've been disconnected from the Kanaka Maoli, the original. Now, here in Hawaii, you have the United States, but you still have the Kingdom of Hawaii. The Kingdom of Hawaii still exists. It's not controlling the whole island, but it still exists, and you can still be a part of the Kingdom of Hawaii. One of the interesting things, when the volcanoes erupt and the volcanoes produce new land, that land that is produced goes to the Kingdom of Hawaii. It's not under the jurisdiction of the United States. The Kingdom of Hawaii have their own IDs, and I've talked to the elders personally, and they learn a lot from the Moorish movement. When they find out I'm a Moor, they're picking my brain to find out what they can implement. So there's still that identity crisis amongst the quote unquote Hawaiian people, but obviously, not to the degree, because we're hundreds of years far removed. But what Prophet Noble Drew Ali was able to do And a lot of Moors get mad at me about this, and they say I'm teaching dogmatic religion because they don't understand what I'm really saying. When you study what he established, it was that is our sovereign. Everybody who knows anything about Moors here knows it primarily on a mass level from Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and he came with the Constitution. And I know I'm being a little long-winded here, but when you study the history of the Cherokee, what moved the Cherokee from a tribe to a nation? Number one, a constitution. That was the first thing. If you look up what made them into a nation, the Constitution. And then secondly was developing national leadership that then provided the national guidance and the national services in order to make that nation not just a nation on paper, but a functional nation. So this is the vein in which I'm talking about. I know primarily the psychology of our people comes first. The identity is important, but identity is really only important so for you to know who you're providing services for, who you're giving charity to. Like it says, charity begins at home. Nationhood is nothing but organized selfishness. So in order to be selfish, you have to know yourself. In order to be know your collective self or your community of self, you have to know you were born into a bloodline. And this is only useful information when it comes to organizing your people as a nation and providing what every other nationality does for their people. So that's the foundation, that's the beginning stage. But in order for us to be at par with all other nations and to link ourselves with the families of nations, we have to be able to move into providing the necessities and the needs. It's not going to be overnight. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it definitely has to be something. And last thing I'll say is you look at China. You know, China was a third world country. A factory to China was 6 or 7 women in a room is about as big as the one I'm sitting in with sewing machines, you know, making clothes and bootlegging and doing all other kind of things. But through them providing the services through the farming and through manufacturing and production, they were able to grow themselves into a world power in a matter of decades. So we have history, and it's if we learn from history and employ it in our movement, we can see ourselves elevate like any other nation on this planet.
Let me say this, Grand Sheik, with because our land is still colonized, and that United States is exercising territorial sovereignty. That has to be addressed. We can't run from that. We can't run
I
from
agree.
no.
I agree.
There's no running. There's no and whatever we do, whatever we decide to do, whatever. There's no way that we can run from the political fact that United States do a conquesting through predecessor conquerors, France, Spain. You also have Spain transferring to the United States of Mexico, and United States of Mexico transferring it through war and through secession treaty to the United States. United States holds title over our land. The United States is exercising territorial sovereignty. One of the elements of territorial sovereignty is not only does the United States have control over our land, but over or control over us. So our identity issue is to address, will enable us to challenge lawfully in the international context the acquisition of nationality through subjugation United States forced us into their legal system, as they did with the kingdom, with the people of Hawaii. They forced they forced us into their legal system and placed us into a new citizenship framework. That has to be addressed. We can't run from that. That has
No,
to be
I
addressed
agree with you.
in the context
I
of
agree with you.
international law.
I don't disagree.
So
Yeah,
I
I don't
wasn't saying that.
disagree with that
No, I
at
wasn't. I
all.
was just for the audience too. So that
Yeah.
so that they can be clear that they can understand why the nationality too. Not is because we have to challenge our continued subjugation. In order to challenge our continued subjugation, we must identify who our mother is, but we must challenge the acquisition of nationality through subjugation. That is an international law process when by a state, a conquering state, through conquest, through subjugation, through colonization, acquires land through that process. They in turn gain control over the inhabitants. And then they can decide to force the inhabitants into their legal system. That's what they did to us. We have to address that in the context of international law. That has not been done, not in the context of international law. We have been given false concepts. Our conscious Moors, just please send me out, conscious Moors. I know what y'all been taught. I know what I taught y'all. Y'all can go to YouTube. I did 10 years ago. I know that. We've been taught that we the people of the United States. We're not. We are the people of the land. We're the people of the land. We the people of the United States, that's inferior. Why would you want to be that?
Mm-hmm.
We the people of the land. We the people of the United States don't have no blood right claims to the land. We the people of the United States claim to the land is through what? We the people of the United States claim to the land is through what? Treaties from the conquering powers. That's the claim. That's the claim. The United States claim over the Louisiana Territory came about how? United States claim over the Louisiana Territory. United States has title from where? Where did the United States get the title from? From France. The treaty is the title. The United States got it from France. So are you that? Are we the people of the United States? Why would you make claim to that? We really don't understand this. I know what I taught. I know what I taught for 25 years. I was wrong. I was wrong. We are the people of the land. We're not the people of the United States. The term United States is used in a geographical sense because of the treaties with the United States of Mexico, with Spain, 1818 treaty with Spain, with the Louisiana Purchase Treaty, with the 1783 definitive peace treaty with Great Britain and the United States. That's without that, United States, the term United States, all right. All right, so let's go. I'm gonna give an example. In 1785, just walk with me this example. Grand Sheik is in California. We're in 1785. He's in California in 1785. I'm here. I'm in here, Pennsylvania, 1785. I would say to Grand Sheik in 1785, I'm in the United States, Grand Sheik. Grand Sheik would say, I'm in Spain. I'm in Spain. I'm in New Spain, Abdullah. I'm in United States, Grand Sheik. Now, why would Grand Sheik in 1785 say, I'm in Spain. Because Spain, what? Exercised territorial sovereignty through conquest. Mexico, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, California. Why? That's why. He wouldn't say, I'm a United States. He would say that now. If stay now, so let's slow down. In 2025, Grand Sheik would say he's in California. I'm in United States, Abdullah, in 2005, 2000 and 2025, and 1870. In 18, let's go to 1870. That's after the Guadalupe War. The Guadalupe War between the United States and United States. I'm explaining. I'm trying to break it down to a 5-year-old to understand this. So in 1860, because the war was 1856, the treaty was 1856 between United States and Mexico. So in 1870, Grand Sheik would say, I'm in the United States, in California. I'm in the United States in 1870. But he wouldn't have said that in 1840. He would say, I'm in Mexico. In 1840, Grand Sheik would have said, I'm in Mexico. Do you see the changing? I'm so a lot of people are not hip to this. They're not. They're not hip to this. So they don't. How did it now? Through treaty, through war, through treaty, through sessions. That's how. So why would you want to make the claim that we the people of the United States? That removes, hear me out, my brothers and sisters. I know what I taught for 25 years. When you make the claim that we the people of the United States, you are not claiming to have blood right claims to the land. You're not claiming to be the people of the land. I explained to you how the term United States is used geographically in these different areas through treaties from conquering powers. We are the people of the land. We are not the people of the United States. That's inferior. We the people of the United States, once again, does not have blood right claims to the land. Their claim is through treaty from conquering powers. I just want to set the record straight on that. Because that had gone unchallenged. Grand Sheik, that up until 6 years ago, nobody challenged that misconception.
Mm-hmm.
It had gone unchallenged, and I'm challenging it. I am challenging it. I'm challenging it on my dying breath. I'm challenging it.
Islam. Well, I'm not of that persuasion, but I'll tell you what I would have said in those time frames that you spoke of. I would have said that I'm in America, because the United States, though it's used in a geographical sense, when it comes to politics, it's used in a political sense. It's a government. So one can domicile on the land of America and not be in the United States of America and participate in their government. And again, this goes back to one of the things that Moors disagree with me on. And when you're dealing with the body politic established by Prophet Noble Jew Ali, and it's a religious organization, but it's also a body politic. And if you know what a body politic is, you already know. Most religious organizations are not body politics. There's a part in the United States where the actual government, where church, temples, synagogues are separate from state. So when it comes to governing and being forced into certain legal and political situations, then free exercise clause of the Constitution of the United States provides remedy for a lot of these situations. And that's because the one thing that the U.S. government, and I'm not referring to the territorial geographical application of the U.S. I'm referring to the governmental application of the U.S. The one thing that they cannot govern, the one body of laws and government that they cannot govern, is religious law. Now, I'm not talking about, I don't care what your religion is, because it doesn't specify religion. But so you could worship the stars, you could be a Muslim, you could be any of the ancient religions of our forefathers. Now, if you're in a Christian, then you're in the Christian code. That's something totally different. But if you're following the ancient, and when I say religion, I know spirituality is not religion. I know faith is not religion, but religion is something which is most people understand it as rituals and practices and dogma, but it's also a political tool, and it's the strongest political tool for the protection of our people in dealing with the United States government side, because they don't have jurisdiction over that. So say, for example, but yet you have to have your own institutions. You don't have to send them to their schools to have to follow. You know, if you don't go to the public school and you're truant, they can get arrested for that. And you can get put in their legal system. The parents can get arrested for that. But if you are of a particular faith and you have your own religious institutional school, you bypass that. You are now independent, and they can't even come over there and do anything. When you have your own births at home, or you have your own nativity ceremonies, whatever you want to call it, at home, and under the jurisdiction of the free exercise clause, you don't have to get a birth certificate. You don't have to do some of these things that Moors see as instruments that can be used and weaponized against them, which they can. So when it comes to how you do your career or your job or your land, when it comes to what you're doing on your land and what services you provided for your people. So I'm talking about in the interim solutions that can make our people stronger. Of course, we have to deal with the occupation. We have to deal with colonialism. We have to deal with slavery. We have to deal with the misbranding and the chattel brands. But we also have to honor our forefathers and be open-minded. When someone say religion, it's automatically dogma, because they shell shock from how religion is practiced in the Christian world, not knowing that it's a powerful political tool that can separate you and make you independent from many of the colonizing oppression right now in this day and time, because they just don't have jurisdiction over that. So that is something that our people need to investigate as a tool, notwithstanding anything else, but understanding what that truly means and how it's operated, because there are not many in the temple that know how to operate it in that way, but there are those who know how to operate it in that way and to keep their family safe from the molestation of big government and other citizens that would heap oppression upon them. So I just want to put that out there, because again, every time I mention religion, people knee jerk back to the dogma without understanding what I actually mean and what a powerful tool it is, and what Prophet Noble Jew Ali brought and established with the Moorish Science Temple of America as not only a religious society, but a jural society founded in law, and also a body politic, which has the ability to act as a third party in between individuals and the United States government, so that they're not done wrong. Many people are in the individual sovereignty and going head up in a rowboat with an armada, instead of knowing that there is an institution that was established to be a third party and to help protect them. Now, there are many body politics now, consulates and different things that people are developing to act as third party. But I do think what Prophet Noble Ali established gets a bad rap. And many of the generational curses that we talked about, people that were talking against the temple back in the day that had people all riled up against the temple, they now have temples themselves. They're still doing what they're doing. They're still teaching civics, but they realize the benefit and the power of having that religious component. Last thing I'll say, I got into it with the Moor, and they were talking about indigenous affidavits and all of this paperwork that they were producing, and how I'm a religious zealot and dogmatic, and they made the mistake of putting that indigenous exemption affidavit on where I could see it, where I could read it. And when I read it, sure enough, right inside that affidavit, they used the freedom of exercise clause to secure the rights for that affidavit. So that clause can be used to secure rights that our people don't have in the state that they're in. I'm not saying it's the cure-all, but it's something that definitely needs to be investigated by Moors, and in a impartial way, and not just knee-jerking because someone mentions religion, and actually see what are the benefits of that and how it can play a role in our sovereignty.
What I'm
That's
talking
one of
about.
them.
Let me say this, Grand Sheik. What I'm talking about is for international law. I'm not talking United States law. I'm talking international law. In international law, when a body of people is seeking protection, what does it mean? I'll phrase the question and I'll answer it. What does it mean in international law when a foreign body of people, that's us, seeks protection from a foreign body? What does that mean in international law? I mean, that you're not seeking protection under your constitution. You're seeking protection under a constitution of a foreign power, and that foreign power, that constitution is maintaining conquest and subjugation of our land. When we seek protection, I just want an international law, because I'm just using.
Got about 20 more on my battery, but let me interject there,
Yeah.
because I don't want to go too far. I want to deal with exactly what you said. And that's a common misconception, that one is seeking protection under the Constitution. No, we have our own Constitution. The Constitution only provides provision for others to practice under their own Constitution. You can't do it under any other type of constitution except a divine constitution. So there's a difference between seeking protections under the Constitution and seeking protections under your law, and your law having provisions in their law for your law. So this is the misconception. We have our own Constitution. And because of the way that church is separate from state, and the freedom of exercise clause is merely a provision, and to let the people, the citizens, and the government know that, hey, these people have the right to operate under their own divine law, which is when you look up divine law in the Black's Law Dictionary, you have 3 types of divine law. You have natural law, which is divine law. You have religious law, which is also divine law. And if you have positive law are the rulings that come down from one that is practicing either. So in interaction with government, and you have 2 people occupying a land, oftentimes in one law, there'll be a provision. It's not a right, but a provision that says, hey, these people are able to operate under their law outside of this jurisdiction. Where rights under the Constitution, what we're talking about are the inalienable rights. The inalienable rights are not rights under the Constitution. Those are rights that come from the Creator, that we're endowed with.
I'm aware of that. We're still seeking protection, though. I hear what you're saying, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's still seeking, but we have treaty. We have a treaty of peace and friendship with the United States. we still would be seeking protection on the United States Constitution. That is a foreign power that still seek. I hear what you're saying about divine law. I'm talking about seek, meaning using any legislation from the United States, referring to any legislation from a foreign an international law. I mean, for going to international law, that is still you're seeking protection from a foreign power. You're not seeking protection from Moorish treaties. You're not seeking protection from that instrument that came from the Moorish sovereignty, Moorish treaties. You're seeking protection from the United States Constitution. What that means in international law. All right. So let me give a case. Let me give a case here.
But
Let me give a case here. Let me finish.
There's a subtle difference, my brother.
Let me give a case, brother, so I can.
What I'm trying to enumerate.
I know what you're saying, but I'm going to give a case. Let me give a case let me give a case so I can. In order for you to understand, let me give this case. In you have Howenstein versus Lynham. Howenstein versus Lynham, 1883 case. It was based on the 1850 treaty between the Swiss Confederation and the United States. Howenstein had purchased 3 properties in Virginia, and he lived in Virginia for 7 years. Now, Virginia had enacted a statute whereby that violated Article 5 of that 1850 treaty, that Howenstein could not recover proceeds from the sale. His relative, that Howenstein died, his relatives came over and they got a lawyer. It had first been decided on Howenstein's status. Howenstein had never renounced his allegiance to Switzerland, so therefore he was still a Switzerland national. Howenstein. So what happened? The fifth Article 5 of the treaty kicked in. So Howenstein. So the Constitution was they did not seek protection from the United States Constitution because Howenstein was not a United States citizen. Article 5 protects a United States national in Switzerland to receive proceeds from a sale property in Switzerland. Also protects a Switzerland national in the United States. The treaty. It was the treaty. That's why I said I got to give cases. I got to give treaty. I read many treaty cases.
Let me respond to that because I got 17 left on my phone here.
All right.
The reason why he was able to seek protection is still outlined in U.S. codes. And I'm going to give you an example. When one wants to become a citizen of the United States of America, and you said he wasn't a citizen, right?
He wasn't a citizen. He was Switzerland national.
So
yes.
Him not being a citizen gave him the protection. So when you go look up the USC codes, and when you go look up how one becomes a citizen voluntarily, not in our case, how one becomes a citizen, you have to, when you mention it, he did not renounce his citizenship.
Yeah, but that doesn't apply in this case, though. You're mixing apples and oranges, brother. This doesn't apply in the case.
You cannot be a citizen, and you can have protection of not being a citizen by when you come to become a so-called citizen of the United States. You can't have, and you mentioned it, allegiance, not only to another country, but to a potentate, a prince, and a country. So went back to Prophet Noble Jew Ali by having an allegiance to the ancient and divine principles of you have to go reclaim that allegiance. You have to reclaim that allegiance to your ancient divine principles of your forefathers. And through that, you are able to bring yourself outside of the citizenry of the USA. Just look up. It's a law. If you can't have allegiance to a potentate, a prince, a government. So it's not just one having allegiance to a government. It also covers religion even in that when you're dealing with potentate. And that's all I'm saying. There's more than one way to heal a cat. And it's important through religion, because one cannot be a citizen if they have an allegiance to another power. And let's bring up the Moroccan Treaty Peace of Friendship. That's a treaty for Muslims, right? That's a Muslim treaty, because in Morocco, there's nothing, it's all governed by Islamic law. There isn't any other law that deals with citizenry. It all goes under Islamic law.
It reads Moors in there, brother. It reads Moors. For those who doesn't know, because
I
you got.
understand Islam.
I hear what you're saying, but
I
remember,
know
you
it
got.
reads Moors.
But people don't know that
I
though.
know it reads Moors.
Sheik, no,
But I'm
Sheik,
saying
you know
in the
that.
technical sense.
No, Grand
And
Sheik,
I
Grand
know
Sheik.
it says Moors, but
No, you know
but
that,
in the
Grand Sheik.
technical,
I know
I
that.
do
Hear me
know
out,
that.
brother. No, I'm saying you
Yeah.
know that, but the audience who are listening don't know that.
Yeah, no, yes, indeed.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying
But
you know
basically,
that. I'm saying the
yeah,
audience
I
who's
got you. I
listening
got
do not know at Article 4, Article 20, the Article 25, Article 20 to Article 25 that deals with extraterritoriality. If a Moor shall kill or hurt a United States citizen or a United States citizen, the audience don't know that. So when you say for Muslim to the audience, and they
because
don't know
more
that.
because
No,
they don't know that, but they should
no,
know that
Sheik,
a
that's all,
more in
Sheik.
that sense. Well, in
Sheik, that's
that
all I'm
sense, a
saying, Sheik,
more.
that the audience, I'm just saying the audience. All
I
I'm
hear
saying is
you,
the
brother.
audience not aware of
I hear
that.
you,
That's
brother.
all.
And I want to give them some information as well, that they should know that the Moroccan Empire is based on Islam. So any subject of the Moroccan Empire is under the Mohammedan way, because there is no other law. There's no, like in the so-called US, a citizenry law. So whether you now and the thing to understand with that is, it's just, you could be Indian, but that doesn't mean that every Indian is Hindu. You could be Chinese. That doesn't mean that every Chinese is Buddhist, and you could be under the Moroccan Treaty and doesn't mean that you're practicing Islam. But the national faith which governs its members is Islam, whether one knows it or not. And because of them having allegiance to a sultan, which is not just a political leader, but a religious leader, equivalent to a potentate, and they have allegiance. Allegiance is the key. When you do the status correction, you change your allegiance. And when you change your allegiance, and there's more than one way to do it, but when you change your allegiance, and put yourself under the divine laws of your forefathers, where I come from, then and in other situations, you're still able to attain some of the things that Moors that are unfamiliar with that cannot attain. So it's just a discussion that Moors need to have in order to become more educated, so that when a Moor mentions this, it doesn't mean they're talking against what someone else is saying, because more than one way to heal a cat. But we have to be open to other understandings, because Allah gave us all a portion, and we put those portions together, and then we see how it can benefit us. Noble Drew Ali said we're teaching not just nationality, but also divine creed. And that divine creed provides a level of protection that most Moors are unaware of, which is why it was included. Not because Noble Drew Ali was a religious zealot, but because he knew, just like other people knew, that once you come under the divine principles of your forefathers and take allegiance to that, you'll be just in the same situation as anybody that still has allegiance to a foreign government, a potentate, a prince, or any other jurisdiction that disqualifies you for citizenship. But because we're born into the so-called United States and we haven't declared that, then we stay de facto in their demonstration. But once you
Subjugated.
declare it at law,
Subjugated.
when you declare it at law, then it's a whole nother story, because now
Mm-hmm.
you're taking back your demonstration. And it's not just about individuals. Let me make this clear. It's not just about individuals doing this. It's about becoming a part of an institution that creates religious trust, body politic, and jural society that provides the protection. Because individually, it's not going to get the same result. So I just want to, make that clear that I'm on the same side, but it's nationality and divine creed. It's civics. Only difference is you got natural law, which Moors get their civics from that, which is divine law, which is why it works, because it's divine. Then you got religious law, which is divine law. Then you have positive law. Positive law are the rulings that come from the sheiks or the leaders using divine law that then become law. For example, religious exemptions and other types of things, rulers that scholars make to protect their people from having to do what the regular citizens do. So it's just it's a larger discussion that our people need to have. And I want to make it clear that I'm not a dogmatic zealot about religion. I don't care what your religion is, but you should know the power of it and how it relates to the USC codes and bringing you outside of the jurisdiction of the United States of America, and also the freedom of exercise clause, which is a provision, not a law, but a provision stating that those who understand this concept are outside of that very apparatus that keeps our people enslaved and gives us the ability to self-govern. Islam?
The listeners are not. Oh, there are listeners who don't understand treaties. They don't. My book, Moors and Masonry, Part 1. I have Moorish treaties. The power of Moorish treaties. The treaties between Morocco and Algiers, between Morocco and Great Britain, between Algiers and Great Britain, between Tunis and Great Britain, and between Tripoli and Great Britain during the 16 and 1700s. Those treaties protected English merchants and sailors. Those Moorish treaties positioned them to where they are today. I'm just saying, and in those treaties, you see Moors. It protects Moors. The Treaty of Granada, of the 1591 Treaty of Granada. It reads Moors. There is an extra. Abu Muhammad surrendered the territorial sovereignty to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. But because the territorial sovereignty surrendered, it did not surrender the Moors' personal rights. So in that treaty, Moors, not Spanish, not Negro, not Blackamoor, not Blackmore, Moors. It protects the Moors' personal rights. What the Europeans did, what Philip II did, which is the grandchild of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. What he did was he manipulated the situation. He denationalized the Moors and classified the Moors as Spanish. Why did he do that? To remove the Moorish treaty protection, the treaty protection of the Treaty of Granada. So there's conscious Moors and unconscious Moors who are not aware of this. So what I'm doing is providing information about what they're not aware of regarding treaty and also treaty cases. I've read so many treaty cases, and I began to say, so we don't have the time right now, but there are a host of treaty cases. So this is why I can go heavy into treaty law, treaty cases, because I've read them. So the power of Moorish treaties. So Moors have been taught to seek protection from the United States Constitution. One, Moors have been taught that's our Constitution. Moors have been taught. Conscious Moors have been taught, and I was one that taught this for 25 years, that 35 Moors and 25 Europeans was at the United States Constitutional Convention in 1787. That Moors are the Moors are the founders of the federal government. That Moors are we the people of the United States. that Moors are the founding fathers. That is a lie, a bold-faced lie, a bold-faced lie, a bold-faced lie, a misconception. I'm challenging on my dying breath. I'm gonna challenge it.
Islam. I don't, again, I'm not of that persuasion. There are some interesting documents, treaties, laws. I just say people investigate divine law, because what we stand on is our law and treaties. It's because of these treaties that provision of the free to exercise clause is even in the Constitution of the United States. So, and one should also look into the Declaration of the Rights of Resolve, which was a document that came out, which is almost like the original Constitution, because that's, and it's some interesting wording in there. It talks about the people being a part of the Declaration of Resolve, which led to the Continental Congress and other things. Within that Declaration of Resolve, it specifically mentions certain inhabitants, Kent County and other places like that. And when we look into the this history, we'll see who those people are. I'd also like to say that one treaty that people overlook is the Treaty of 1862 of Shaka Maxim with Tamanend and William Penn in Pennsylvania. Very important treaty. Tamanend was known as the king of the Moors, and the tribe was known as Moors. This tribe is mentioned in the Delaware Code. And the treaty, under the treaty, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1682, with they call them Lenape these days, but the Delaware Code lets you know that they were formerly known as Moors. And so this treaty actually predates the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and covers Moors on this land from our indigenous forefathers, before the Muslim treaty, which came after the recognition of the United States. The Treaty of Shaka Maxim is the treaty that I most recommend Moors to look into, because again, it comes from our forefathers upon these shores, and once you read it, you're going to see Lenape. You're going to see Lenape. When you go to the Delaware Code, it lets you know that the Lenape were formerly known as Moors, and then
Yes.
that makes you understand why, when you go to the hierarchical code of the CDC, that you see Moors there under tribal name, and then you also see Moors also as a race. So yes, the treaty, we use anything to our benefit that's going to benefit us, we need to use, whether that be a treaty of peace and friendship coming from our Muslim brothers and sisters across the waters, or it be the Treaty of 1682, Shaka Maxim, from our forefathers actually on these shores prior to that one. So they all play a role in this decolonization process, this mental decolonization process, this governmental decolonization process. The information I share is practical. We talk about practical solutions, right? Things that Moors can do right now in the interim of anything else that they're doing. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We don't have to cast anything aside. We would be foolish too. But there are things and myths that float around about what comes out of the temple, or what comes out of the civic side of things. And just us having this conversation, I'm sure is bridging some gaps and opening up some minds to let people know that there's a vast amount of knowledge out there, and there's many ways to approach a subject. And if even when it comes to contracting, contracting is a mutual thing. If the contract is mutual for you, then you have to decide on your own what is going to be mutually beneficial for you to get your face out of the dust, because whatever's done can be undone. So praise Allah, I got about 6 on my bar right
All
here. I
right.
was trying to plug in my computer earlier. That's why it took me a little time and have more battery, but I had to use my phone. So praise
That's fine.
Allah. I appreciate you, good brother.
Yeah, bro, we going 2 hours, so we good. So thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for
Yes.
tuning in. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Once again, my website, mooresandmasonry.org. For those Moorish treaties, go to mooresandmasonry.org. Moorish Masonry Part 1 as well as Moorish Masonry Part 2 for Moorish treaties. And for more international studies, go to Moorish Masonry Part 2. I didn't know international law back when I was working on Moorish Masonry Part 1. You know, I have international law and Moore's Masonry Part 2. That's where you see my growth in my knowledge of international law. And if you see my later, this is why I tell people, look at my more recent over the past, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, my more recent videos, because you'll see more in-depth study, more in-depth presentations on treaty studies, international law, principles of nationality in the context of international law. You'll see how I've grown and developed in the areas of international law. All right. So if you look at me 10 years ago, you won't get that. You won't get that 10 years ago. You would have to look at from 6 years up. All right.
I'm
So
glad you
once
mentioned
again,
that, because as authors, we do develop and we do grow. Things that we knew then, we develop in knowledge, and so it's important to know that when you're reading books, and
yep.
don't hold it against people, because that's the sign someone who's telling the truth. Because a lot of people, they stay stuck in their narrative, and just keep trying to defend something that they know is no longer valid. So honors to you for that, brother. And also I like to mention, you can find Cosmo Ill books,
Yeah, there you go.
CosmoEl. Just type in Cosmo Ill on Amazon. A host of books will come up for you on Moorish history, Moorish language, ancient Moabite language, also Islamic sciences, so on and so forth. So just Google Cosmo Ill at Amazon. And if anyone is interested in more information about the United Moorish Science Temple of America, you can go to United Moorish Science Temple. You can go to prophetnoblejuali.org. And also for the Moorish Times newspaper, you can go to prophetnoblejuali.org. Under services and products, you can find the Moorish American newspaper. We take article submissions. If you're interested in selling, if you're interested in distributing, selling ads, or subscribing, all are welcome. And it's your paper as much as it is ours. So use it. Don't misuse it. Islam.
Islam. All right. Thank you again, Brother Hank. I appreciate you. All right. Appreciate you. Until next week, Right Serious. Right Serious Ill will be doing part 2 of my book, How a Venus and he'll be doing part 2 of the book review of my book, How Her Venus and Moon Ruled. To get that book, go to Moors and Masonry Part 2. mooresandmasonry.org. That is by Serious Ill. We'll be doing part 2 of that book review. And then we'll have, after that, on the 28th of July, we have Sister Shantae Lene Hartford. She will be doing her presentation on the birth of the nation. All right. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you. Thank you, Brother Hank. Peace, everyone.